We're about to hit some sick bar. Hit it, DJ.
KTV.
Chilling thinking in my house. Then all of a sudden I'm like, what the hell? I was supposed to be alone. I was supposed to be by myself all freaking day to D. So I got dressed up in a dress. Then people showed up and I'm like, what the heck? Why are you home? Please leave me alone. No one's supposed to know this. It's my own zone. Cause I'm cross-dressing, I'm feeling good and I'm feeling like I'm heaven. And I don't feel bad at all. Usually I do. I'm like, oh, I hate it. I hate being a man. I made it. I hate it. I hate it. I just want to be a woman. I'm faded. And then, I don't know what happened. People walked in and shit went cracking. People started shooting and people started bawling. This song is over, but you know why I'm calling. Today, we're going to read this YouTube thread. Not YouTube thread. Today, we are going to... Please help! Why am I trans? Hi all. I've been raised in an environment and worked in roles where transphobia and homophobia dominates, and I even have my own uneducated biases towards the subject. However, I'm now ironically beginning to believe I may be trans. Wow. That is quite iconic, if I say so myself. How one could ironically believe they're trans, that's a question. It's kind of like when you ironically, like, will yourself into liking something, I guess. But maybe, you know, it's like the underlying, like, oh, I always liked this, but I didn't really always like this. But in my brain, I always wanted to like this. You know what I mean? It's like that hidden, deep desire to eat the forbidden foods. So it began when I was roughly 13 years old, and I was genuinely a beautiful boy with long, curly hair, often mistaken as a tomboy. I would sleep over at my friend's house, whose mom I found super attractive. Anyway, for no known reason at the time, I felt an urge to sneak in her drawers and try on her underwear. At the time, I couldn't explain the rush I got. All I knew was it felt good. This happened a few times, but the shame and guilt took over and I stopped. Throughout my teens, I became obsessed with lesbian porn, then transfutenaria. Looking back, a part of me wished I was one of the girls. Fast forward and I'm 20, driving home from work, and suddenly have an urge to wear women's underwear. I stop at the nearest Kmart and purchase a bra and panties. I was shaking with adrenaline as I wore them home under my normal clothes. Throughout the next 10 years, during numerous relationships, I'd secretly try on my partner's lingerie or panties and become obsessed with the rush and sexiness of it. I escalated to the point of coming out to my ex, who encouraged me. She even admitted I looked hotter than her in her own lingerie and wig. But after a week or so of dressing up every night, I seemed to hit a wall mentally, and I just thought, why am I doing this? What's the point? It's just a fetish, sexual rush, and it's embarrassing as my girlfriend needs a real man. Insecurity set in, and it wasn't until a few more years before the urges rushed back, and following our separation, within a week, I shaved my entire body and I did it all again. I've never ever talked about my struggle with this, and recently, for the first time, I began to objectively question this on a deeper level and consider the possibility I may actually be trans. For the longest time, I thought it was just a phase or a kink, but lately I've been going over these events and others during my teens. I'm petrified of the answer and feel totally lost and unsure how to move forward. I just love the feeling of dressing as a girl, and I know if I go down this road in my life, my family's life will be turned upside down. I'm terrified of the consequences. Edit. Wow, thank you all for your input and feedback. You've given me so much to consider. I'm definitely consulting a therapist as I need to explore this on a deep dive with an expert, clearly. You're all amazing. Let's see what the people are saying. But first, what do I think? I think this makes me think of a story. Just a paper that was written by this woman named Andrea Longchu. Andrea wrote this paper about, basically it was about porn and how it takes the control out of our lives and how a lot of people are able to explore things that they desperately crave but are like pushed away from in real life due to like pressures, right? Like social pressure, or like internal fear of that thing, right? But like through pornography, you're still like seeking out exactly what you desire, if that makes sense. It just kind of takes the control out of your hands, which makes it a lot easier for you. Specifically, her paper talks about sissy porn and pre-trans women, or just trans women, I guess. Which is very interesting, right? Like, it's very interesting. I recommend you read the paper for yourself, but basically, she gives a bunch of examples. She talks about a couple of modern media pieces. Basically, she comes to the conclusion that a lot of your desires are expressed through the things that you consume, through the things that you eat, through, you know, the actions you're taking as either like a cope or not even as a cope, just as like, I don't know, like you want this thing, so you're going to do this thing, right? And like, if we really want to get specific, I was even reading it a little. I read this a couple years ago, like right when I was starting my transition. The political lesson of pornography is this. We mostly just like what we like, whether we like it or not. This lesson might be hard to swallow. So might most porn. Right here, she talks about how like feminists like porn, but they don't like the like political side of porn. She's basically saying that like, you know, everybody agreed that like we should be pro-sex, but then we just can't agree on how much pro-sex that we should be. But anyway, she's just like explaining the basis of a lot of these arguments. All in all, she comes across to say this. The suggestion here is that the pornographic spectator is basically a bottom, right? And like in our culture, people are like socializing themselves sexually to be a bottom. This is not relevant. This Reddit post made me think of this, and basically the whole point that this says is that like a lot of people find themselves drawn to this because of the inability to express a lot of these things in real life due to social pressures, due to like gendered socialization, whatever you want to call it. Okay, now I'm talking too much, so I recommend you go read that. My gender dysphoria manifested as cross-dressing at first. I was euphoric when wearing feminine clothes, but didn't experience much dysphoria otherwise for a long time. While we can share our own experience and you can see how you relate, it is ultimately up to yourself to find out who you really are. I recommend seeking out a gender therapist and looking at the Gender Dysphoria Bible, which, if you don't know, is just a website where you can do a bunch of cool trans stuff. And it tells you like what is gender, you know, it basically just gives you a bunch of information. Definitely read that out if you're curious. First things first, I wanted to applaud your bravery for being willing to experiment with your gender. Seriously, you shouldn't feel ashamed even if you end up finding out you are not trans. In a more civilized age, we would have called it soul searching or enlightenment, but alas. Secondly, because each of our experiences are different, it's sometimes considered impolite to confirm whether or not someone is trans or cis. That's a question only they, or in this case you, can answer. So having said that, here are my thoughts. So what this person is referring to is called the egg prime derivative. You know, a lot of trans women and just trans people don't like to imply or hint that other people could be queer or trans. I think it's like kind of like a consent or autonomy thing. Plus, you know, everybody likes to call trans women groomers, so probably a step away from that because it's like, well, I don't want anybody to think I'm a groomer, so I'm not gonna tell people that I think they're trans, right? But really, I feel like that's kind of a harmful thing, right? Like, it's good if some people or a lot of people even are using the egg prime derivative. But on the other hand, I feel like if somebody was there to tell me like, oh, you're trans, like let me help you figure out who you are, right? When I was younger, I would have probably really appreciated that. Because that's just not the accessibility I had. You know, I had forums, I had like sissy porn, I had material of trans women, right? But like I didn't know I was one. I didn't know like this was a thing that I was gonna do, right? Well, I had a suspicion. I also had a suspicion I was gonna die before I turned 18. Anyways, point being, I'll call you trans. I don't care. And if you're wrong, guess what? It's not that bad. You can just transition for a little bit and then de-trans. I strongly believe in experimentation with your own autonomy, your own individuality, your own diversity even, right? Like taking exogenous hormones, especially of the opposite sex, for lack of a better term, makes you kind of punk and anarchist and like futuristic, right? Like you're literally cyberpunk in real life. You're living cyberpunk. You're literally forcing diversity in the biological realm. So you're pretty good. That's all I'm saying, okay? There are men out there that enjoy dressing as a woman for bedroom purposes, but that's the thing. Once the deed has been done, they remove the lingerie and go on being men. I reckon a good way of figuring things out is try to imagine yourself not only as a sexy woman, try picturing yourself in comfortable everyday clothes doing mundane chores, no makeup, no provocative outfit, just a regular gal doing dishes. You know, this one actually makes me think of something Blankard said, and I know, everybody hates the Blankardians, right? And I'm not a Blankardian, don't get me wrong. I definitely think that he's not our best person to lean towards, right? But even Blankard says that AGP isn't just sexual in nature, it also includes these everyday mundane things, like just hanging out with some women. It's not all sexual, but anyway, so this made me think of Blankard, but I don't know. Finally, regarding family life, yeah, it's scary, especially as you have said that you were raised in a transphobic environment. It sucks, but the world is not exactly in our favor. The only thing I can offer is hope. Things have turned around before, and with time, we can only hope that they will change again. Those who hate us will realize how stupid their ideals were, and the bigots will be driven out of public life. But as I always say, I'm just some weird Reddit lady, and these are my thoughts. That's so real. This isn't too far off from some of my experiences. If an accident happened and you had no choice but to move on from it as a woman, how would you feel? You would be seen as a woman no matter what you actually wanted. In this hypothetical situation, you have no control over the situation, it's just decided. For me personally, I don't see any downsides to the situation you're describing. Me neither. Ugh, I wish I could live that reality. So there's this. I'm not going to read this because it's really long and it says that it's an SFW, but you should read it. And if I'm being completely honest, I did already read it. I just don't want to read it out loud. Anyways. What you wrote is relatable, but I can't tell you who you are. Prime egg derivative. Do you want to dress like a woman sometimes, or do you want to be a woman full-time? Do you feel that living as a woman will make you happier? Or maybe the idea just feel right? Does it feel good to be referred to as she? That might give you some hints as to what this is all about. Sometimes I get urges to dress full-time, fantasizing about doing it outside. I want to be viewed as a woman this way sometimes. Lately, it's been intense. These are the questions I haven't asked myself, which I need to start doing. That's so real. And for everybody watching this, you know, a lot of these questions are not that easy, right? Like, if you've never lived as a woman, how do you know if you want to dress like a woman full-time? How do you know if you want to live like a woman full-time, right? How do you know if it just feels good, or if like living as a woman will actually make you happier, right? How do you know if it feels good to be referred to as she if you haven't had it happen before? You know what I mean? I guess my whole point is that I feel like this is also one of those things where you just have to experiment, right? Like, you have to try things out. You have to figure out who you are through trying things. You won't just be able to know who you want to be. Like, in the beginning of my transition, I definitely had an idea of how I wanted to interact with the world, how I wanted to be perceived, how I wanted to, like, interface, right? But the other thing is that a lot of the reality of my lived situation didn't live up. Well, some parts were better, some parts were worse, but they didn't live up to the actual reality of my life, right? Like, nothing I could have thought would have prepared me for the real life actuality that I'm living, right? So I just want to get that point across as well, is like, while you can do all this experimentation, you got to get that lived experience in, right? Like, you got to actually go experience these things so you know how you feel about them. And you have to wade through all the uncomfortable feelings that come from a lifetime of repression and pushing everything down. So, TLDR, a lot easier said than done, okay? Okay, cable traditional, 2138. Although, Biddy did appreciate it, so... Gender euphoria being arousing is very real. Euphoria boners, however conflicting they can be, are something I think most of us experience. I think you should experiment more, maybe try using different pronouns in a safe space, especially in an online one. I also think an important question you should answer for yourself is if your desire to be a woman exists outside of sexual context. Maybe try asking yourself questions like, would my life be better if I were a woman? Do I enjoy being a man? For the time being, I think you should just ignore the potential consequences of transitioning. Obviously, they need to be approached eventually, but at the moment, I think you should just remember it's your life and you should live it for yourself. I feel like this is agreeing with what I was just saying about autonomy, experimentation, and increasing your own biodiversity, right? While I do think this is a good question. Do I enjoy being a man, right? But again, if all you've ever done is live as a man, how do you know if you enjoy being a man, right? Well, maybe you think no, or maybe you think like, oh, I'm neutral about it, right? Like, I don't really care. I'm just like neutral. It doesn't really matter to me. But do you enjoy it, right? You don't have any comparison. You don't have any baseline. Like, I can compare my baseline of living as a man to my real life reality right now of living as a girl, right? And like, I can compare them and I'm like, oh yeah, I definitely like living as a girl a lot more. And even then, I don't even necessarily know if I get treated as a girl all the time. Like, more dominant, like, I would say more often than not, I am treated as a girl, right? But, like, I definitely get treated as just, like, a twinkie gay guy sometimes. And, like, well, I'm assuming that. I'm assuming. But I just feel like that's what happens, right? I don't know. It just feels like that outside. I can be like, it's just like a vibe that I can, like, pick up off people. But maybe that's just me being paranoid. But anyways, my point being, I like my life better now as a woman twinkie, right? Then I liked it as like trying to be a masculine man, right? But I know that because I stopped being a masculine, well, kind of, sometimes, most of the time, I stopped being a masculine man, and I have become like this like woman, twinkie person, right? So like, TLDR, what I'm saying is, this is a good question, but also you gotta experiment and try it out, because otherwise you don't really know. Okay. I can relate to this, and I think it's common amongst trans women. I always knew I was a girl from a very young age, but I didn't actively realize it. I wanted to dress like other girls and play with girly dolls. Unfortunately, growing up with only one older brother afforded me none of these opportunities. Fast forward to 12 or 13, I was sneaking in and wearing my mother's bra and panties. I would also look longingly at the girls section in any store, and my grandmother even caught me, and I made up a lie about imagining pretty girls wearing these clothes. I think she knew, but she made me believe that she bought my terrible excuse. In my 20s, I joined the military hoping it would all go away and I would just be a normal man. But similar to OP, I would look at my girlfriend's lingerie, bras, panties, and I would feel jealousy in a way that I couldn't describe. I finally came out to my fiance, and the love of my life, and she was so supportive and helped me learn makeup, find my style, treated me as a woman, and my indecisiveness and shame would make me purge and throw everything away. A week later, I would be asking her to take me out to buy my own stuff all again. I know that my constant shame and bringing and purging really hurt her, as she was just trying her best to support me, and I was a mess, and I regret my behavior because she was so delicate and sweet towards me. I finally transitioned, and to be honest, that rush of wearing lingerie and everything goes away, but I'm glad it did. It went away because I feel like any other normal woman when I wear it, and I look like a woman now, so my brain just kind of sees it as normal now. It's a long journey, but you may want to talk with a therapist as you may be trans. I thought I was just a cross-dresser, but once I opened Pandora's box, there were so many other things about my life that became crystal clear, and I realized I'd always been a woman. Best of luck, wherever your journey takes you. I definitely fuck with this, right? Because this person, they experimented, they went through a lot of like, you know, they were working through it. I even mentioned, like, you have to sort through all of the negative feelings that come from this lifetime of repression. And this commenter even mentions it here, right? She talks about the shame and binging and purging, right? And I actually agree with this, right? Like, I did the same thing, except I was like I was scared of like girl sections in clothes. I know that's so weird, but I was like afraid of them, right? Like I couldn't be seen there, and like I don't know. In my 20s, I joined the military hoping it'd all go away. I also was definitely like envious, jealous of my girlfriends, and like their ability to just exist as women. No, I actually came out. She was my fiance, but we had been together for about 3 years, well, 2 years, I guess. And I came out to her, and you know, on the face, she was really supportive. I mean, I'm not gonna like trauma dump or anything, so like I'll keep it relatively obscure. But on the face, she's acted like she was supportive. But I think that my own version of this, just like that like shame spiral, that the negativity spiral really kind of fucked everything up. But then again, I don't really know, because on the other hand, she was teaching me how to do makeup and stuff, right? But she was teaching me the wrong way how to do makeup. And like, not like the wrong way, but like she was giving me bad advice. She's giving me bad makeup advice that I know is bad makeup advice now. I didn't know it was bad makeup advice then, and I listened to it every single time. Anyways, point being, I also relate to this, and she was supportive, but I definitely think it was extremely grating when I went from like, I don't want to say a confident man, but like a nonchalant, like, I'll do what I want man, right? And I was like, crazy. So then I went to be really insecure, and I cried all the time, and not fun. But yep. Okay. Yeah, just a lot of the same here. Just a lot of read the gender dysphoria Bible. Maybe I'll make a video about the gender dysphoria Bible. I'll read the whole thing. Basically, a lot of people are disagreeing. I will put this Reddit thread in the comments, but I've been talking for too long, I think. Being trans isn't something you can be told. You need to find a gender therapist, someone who's worked with the LGBTQIA+ community, and then start doing the work. Read the gender dysphoria Bible. Euphoria bones happen. Even a year into my transition, if I'm feeling super femme or pushing the envelope for myself, I occasionally get a euphoria boner. It usually subsides fairly quickly. It's like a victory gin, right? From 1984. Also, okay. I'm definitely pro finding a gender therapist, right? It's just like, I think it's good to have therapy. I think it's good to find people that you can talk to about your situation. I want to caution people to not over-rely on your doctor, who's likely going to be a cis person, right? And this goes for therapists and also like other doctors, right? A lot of people like to act like they're an expert on transgender people, and they don't actually know what they're talking about. They don't know. They put you on, I don't want to say a Han dose, but they put you on a Han dose, right? They're like, have 2 milligrams of estrogen for years. Oh, no AA. Just take it. It's yours. Oh my God. Anyways, I'm just saying. Make sure that you're also meeting queer people, trans people, talking to other of your peers, and not just relying on like the authority, like the government authority, because gender therapists, that means they are licensed by the government, and you know, the state, right? I just told you transitioning was like an anarchist thing to do, because you're increasing your own biodiversity. So don't let the state tell you what you can and cannot do, right? Don't let state-run doctors tell you what you can and cannot do. That's how I feel about that one. But anyways, my point is, I don't know. Just don't over-rely on the medical professionals that you feel like you should be able to rely on, because you probably can't rely on them as much as you want to. And a lot of trans people will tell you this, you know, you have to be your own advocate, and you have to do your own research. You have to become like a professional in trans medicine, because your doctor, more than likely, right, unless you get like a really good doctor, your doctor's not going to know what the fuck they're talking about. Like, my doctors tried to not give me progesterone, and like, I was doing so much research. He even called another endocrinologist I just want to clarify, it was not a transgendered or like trans specialist endocrinologist. It was just some random endo for like diabetes problems, right? And you know what that guy said? He doesn't know his shit either. Because he told me, he also said, oh, progesterone's bad, it's gonna like give you heart issues. No, progestins give you heart issues. Synthetic, like non-bioidentical progesterone might, but progesterone that we use today that's bioidentical does not have the same health issues. Anyways, point being, trust your doctors, but don't overly trust your doctors. Okay. Let me just read this one last comment and then I'll call it a day, because I'm just rambling, I'm just talking too much. But hi honey, all our experiences are different. I can share a bit of my own experience, AMAB 53, early in my own public gender journey. Every single day of my life, I thought about being a woman. Every experience I had, I was always wondering and wishing that I was experiencing it as female. The feelings did not go away. Finally, after getting married a couple times and raising a horde of kids and having a productive, manly career while constantly thinking I wish I was a woman, secretly wearing lingerie in the middle of the night when everyone was sleeping, the kids grew up and I started dressing more, and then I started going in public. When I'm dressed as a woman and presenting myself as a woman to the world, I feel a deep sense of tranquility and the voice in my head that is constantly asking me, what would this feel like as a woman? It's finally quiet. There's a tranquility in my mind that has never been there before. I feel correct and authentic, and even if it takes me an hour to get ready, which that's on the short end for me, TBH, but it takes me a long time to get ready. I was never sure I was trans until I tried being a woman through cross-dressing and working very hard on being passable enough to blend in and not feel like a freak. Now I know for sure. I feel better and more authentic as a woman. I'm trans. I should transition. It only took me a few decades to figure it out. Estrogen also makes my brain function much better. I did a year of test runs, including a bunch of 24/7 women experiences for a week at a time. Now I know what I am. Good luck. See, again, experimentation, increasing internal biodiversity. Like, this person is based. This person is just simply based. I don't know what you want me to say. And this is kind of what I was saying earlier, right? Like, you don't really know how you feel until you're doing it, right? And then like this person is saying, yeah, I did a bunch of experiments. I experimented with the hormones and I liked the effects of them, which is kind of the same thing I did early in my transition. I was like, let me just try it for a couple months, see how we feel, and then I can stop every day. And I still say that, right? Like, every day I make the decision to continue transitioning. And I definitely have days where I'm like, oh, I don't want to today. Like, I don't want to take my hormones. I don't want to take my meds. I don't want to do this. So I just don't, right? And it's like a decision I can make every day. And I'm not going to recommend you do that, because there's probably are, some negatives to having these fluctuating hormone levels. On a plus though, I think my boobs are developing a lot because of that. I don't know why. I don't want to get into it. I have a theory that it's the peaking testosterone, or specifically this peaking DHT and growth hormone that comes when I do that. I think it's that, but I don't know for sure, and I'm not a doctor, so don't listen to me. But point being, I definitely vibe with experimenting, and that's the only way you can figure out, are you trans? Okay, thank you, and goodbye. Make sure I don't dox myself when I'm editing this, please. I'm calling. Because you're fired. You're getting cross-dressed illegally. Anyways, I'm chilling, right? Oh, no. I messed it up. No, please help. Am I trans? That's what everybody wants to know. Hi, all. Firstly, I need to thank you all in advance for giving me the opportunity to reach out in this forum. I've been raised in an environment and worked in roles where, I'm chilling here. Ooh. No. Okay, I'm not gonna fuck it up this time. Chilling, thinking in my house.